And hello everyone, TechRoBrandon here at TechRoBrandon on Twitter, and now Beam.Pro /TechRoBrandon. That's right, I'm live streaming games now. And it's been quite a process getting the live stream going. I have my live stream box back there, and you don't really understand the complexity that goes behind a live stream until you do it yourself. So I'm going to take you on the same journey that I did from beginning to present day. And then in this episode, we're going to be talking about the hardware that goes into a live stream and why it's really important, almost pretty much the foundation of any good live stream. Let's get started. Now, my ambitions were really high for trying to get this live stream started, and I just wanted to dive right in. It seemed like something that was a lot of fun, and I didn't want to waste any time trying to get the right hardware and such. So, I decided to load it onto Diablo, my gaming rig, an AMD system with a Xenon X4 910. It's 910. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. But it's an X4 910, and the results didn't go over so well. And it's weird because, I got into LaCroix because of this. The coconut flavor, because I love coconut flavor. Now, to be fair, my graphics card's a GTX 950, I have 8 gigs of RAM, both of those are fine for what I need them for, so what was the problem? The processor. My processor is an AMD Phenom X4 910, which, let's face it, when you're doing lots of encoding, which is CPU intensive, it's going to tax your processor like crazy and you're not going to do very much, especially when you're trying to live stream and play games at the same time. So clearly I needed to start over, and this is what I came up with right here, which you see before you, my stream box. So was there a reason why I went with server parts rather than just picking up any random motherboard and processor off of Amazon or Newegg? Well, the reason being is that old server parts are actually a little bit cheaper, if not a lot cheaper, and just as, if not more powerful than what you get in a consumer-grade motherboard and processor combination that's relatively new. This right here is a Supermicro X8 DTL3F, an Intel Xeon X5670 processor, and 12 gigabytes, that's 3 4GB sticks, of DDR3 ECC RAM. You can't just pick up any random one off the shelf from Newegg or Amazon or anywhere else and just slap it in there. You need to have specific RAM modules for your system, so do your research if you decide to go this route. But besides that, the system's been actually working quite well for me, and I'd definitely build this again if I was able to, or if I need to. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do another one of these builds for the next gaming rig that I have. It's an Intel Xeon X5670, big deal. How's it going to compare to newer stuff? Well, oddly enough, the AMD FX 8300, I believe it is, only has a passmark score of about 8,500 points. This processor actually yields about 8,100 points. So I was able to pick up a speedy processor for about a third of the cost of a newer processor. So going old isn't exactly a bad thing. Now what I have before me is a Corsair carbide case with a 600 watt power supply. You don't really need much else, but as long as you have a full ITX capable computer case, that should be fine. Just make sure that the mounts are properly there and the screws go in all the way. Now to cool that processor, the passive heatsink that was inside this the motherboard chassis when I pulled it is not going to cut it unless if I had turbo fans blowing directly from the front to the back and making a ton of noise, almost like a jet engine. So I decided to go with this Corsair H55 all-in-one water block, and I gotta tell you, it is the best investment I've ever made with any computer build. I would highly recommend, even if you're not building something of this caliber, go out and do water-cooled all-in-one units. You will thank me later. So one thing you might notice about the processor cooling block is that the screws that hold it in place are not the ones designed for it from Corsair themselves. Sean's TechSpace at Sean's TechSpace on Twitter was nice enough to actually create some brackets that would be able to hold the water block down on top of the processor, and it took a little bit of doing, but it's able to sit properly, and it's been running fine ever since without a problem. But just to notate that if you decide to do this, you may have to start getting a little creative with the brackets, because otherwise holding it down might be a little bit of a challenge. Now, as far as storage is concerned, I highly recommend solid-state drives more than anything else, and in here I have a spare SanDisk 64GB SSD and a 500GB that I pulled out of another unit, and that does me just fine, but I'd highly recommend an SSD for at least your boot drive. I highly recommend that over anything else. Now on this server board and most server boards, you're only going to get 8 megabytes of video RAM, and the reason for that is server OSs don't usually do anything graphically intensive, so they don't really need to have anything more powerful than a basic video driver. But for OBS Studio, we're going to need something a little more powerful that can do DirectX 10 and above. That's why I picked up this EVGA GeForce GTX 650, sporting 2 DVI ports and a mini HDMI port, which is enough for my needs. Now, with a server motherboard, you're not going to get onboard sound on almost any server you're going to find. Unfortunately, they don't really need it to be playing any sounds outside of the beeps you get from posts. So, I picked up a Creative Sound Blaster Audigy FX card, and it's been doing me fine. It's PCIe, fast enough, and also comes with headers for the front ports, and that does fine in my carbide case. As far as SATA is concerned for the hard drive, SATA 2 is what's on board of this server motherboard, so if you want to go with SATA 3, you have to go with a PCIe card, and I picked up one, and it's currently occupying the other PCIe slot that the sound card's not occupying, and it's been working fine after some tinkering, but that's just my personal preference because I want to get as much speed as I possibly can out of the solid-state drive, and SATA 2 might bog it down just a little too much for when I'm trying to record. Now, another thing to note is that this motherboard only has 2 USB 2.0 ports, and that's right next to the processor up at the top. If you really want to make this thing rock, you really should pick up one of these USB 3.0 cards in order to get the most bandwidth out of your system, but currently my 2 PCIe slots are taken up by the sound card and the RAID card, so I can't really put it in there. My only other option is to make either the sound card or the USB card PCI rather than PCIe, and I'll probably end up doing that in the future, but for right now I'd rather just keep the sound card as PCIe because that's going to be one of the bigger assets I'm going to have in the live stream. So before it looked like this. So how does it look now?
Rolling.
And hello everyone, welcome to TechRoomBrandon's live stream, the very first official one. I did a test stream, there's my class, I am almost always a tank, so let's go stupid tank. So yeah, which ones can dual wield? Alright. Die! Everybody die! Don't anybody die! So at the end of the day, I am left with a high-powered stream box that will serve me for many live streams to come. I gotta tell you, this is one of the funnest projects I've ever done, and yeah, there was definitely some little hiccups along the way, but that's just part of PC building. You're always gonna find little things that you need to improve on, or maybe even need to straight out rethink. But hey, a stream box is only part of the equation, so check in for part 2. We're gonna go over OBS setup, how to make a green screen work alright, and get audio set up that actually sounds good. I'll see you next time.